In 1963, a dramatic scene unfolded when NHRA officials raided a Chevrolet workshop, confiscated an engine, and labeled it illegal. Not because anyone cheated, and not because of anything criminal, but because the engine produced more power than the rules could handle. This was the beginning of the legend of Chevrolet's 409W, an engine celebrated as a masterpiece yet shadowed by controversy, danger, and politics. What looked like a triumph of engineering soon became a story tangled with corporate pressure, tragic accidents, and accusations of sabotage. People called it a coffin on wheels, and the question still lingers: why would Chevrolet pull the plug on its own monster? The 409 first appeared in 1961, born out of the brutal horsepower wars, during a time when Chevrolet was determined to dominate both the street and the strip. Designed under the guidance of Ed Cole, Chevy's chief engineer who would later become GM president, the W-block engine featured an unusual 11-degree valve angle that set it apart from everything else on the market. Built at GM's Flint plant in Michigan, the same facility responsible for engines like the Corvair and the legendary small block V8, the 409 pushed boundaries rather than following them. Retired Chevy technicians later admitted that the engine could be temperamental. The dual quad setup was gorgeous when in perfect sync, but even the slightest imbalance turned tuning into a nightmare. Its 409W nickname came from the engine's distinctive wide-angle valve layout, a design choice that gave it a personality unlike anything coming out of Detroit at the time. This wasn't just an engine, this was Chevrolet's challenge to the emerging muscle car era, created to deliver violent, unapologetic power, and it did exactly that. By 1962, the 409 had carved out its place in muscle car history, with the base version already producing 360 horsepower from a single Carter AFB carb. That number quickly rose to 380 horsepower, solidifying Chevrolet's reputation for pushing limits. But raw horsepower was only half the story. With 400 pound-feet of torque, the real appeal of the 409 was the earth-moving shove it delivered at almost any RPM. Chevrolet released multiple versions: the 360 horsepower entry model, the 380 horsepower upgrade, and in 1963 the wild 409 400, which delivered an even 400 horsepower without sacrificing torque. The engine gained several memorable nicknames. Mechanics and racers called it the Beast because of its brutal output and the skill it demanded to tune. Drag racers nicknamed the 409-powered Impala the Impaler, thanks to its dominance over rivals like Ford's 406 and Pontiac's 421. The Beach Boys unintentionally turned the engine into a cultural icon with their hit song 409, although they later joked they preferred Fords. And then there was the darker nickname, WidowMaker, used by critics and NHRA officials who claimed that lightweight Chevrolets fitted with 409s became unstable at high speeds. Fans argued this label was propaganda pushed by competing brands to justify restrictions. As the engine rose to fame, the conflicts around it grew even louder. The W-block's 11-degree valve angle gave it superior airflow, but the most extreme version, the solid-lifter 425 horsepower 409, pushed performance to an entirely different level. With an 11.25-to-1 compression ratio and twin 4-barrel carbs, it wasn't just fast, it was terrifyingly fast. By 1963, the NHRA rewrote its rulebook to slow the engine down, forcing Chevy racers to carry heavy weight penalties and run restrictor plates. Ford and Chrysler were heavily suspected of influencing these rules. Racers like Dick Harrell accused officials of bending the rulebook against Chevrolet, even disqualifying teams for what many believe were manufactured violations. It became clear that the 409 wasn't merely being restricted, it was being erased. Even on the consumer side, the 409 wasn't cheap. The engine option cost around $500 on the Impala, a premium price at the time, but buyers considered it worth every dollar. Against competitors, the 409 held its ground effortlessly. Ford's 406 and Pontiac's 421 were worthy opponents, yet the 409 routinely outran them, especially at the drag strip. Don Nicholson's 13.7-second pass in a 409-powered Impala during the 1962 Winter Nationals sent shockwaves through the industry. Not long after, GM's corporate ban on racing in 1963 cut off factory support, leaving the engine to fade. But it wasn't gone yet. Chevrolet produced one final monster, the Z11, a secret 427 cubic inch version that unofficially made close to 500 horsepower. NASCAR banned it on sight. So why did the 409 truly disappear? Its straight-line dominance made competitors nervous, and its power pushed safety limits for lightweight full-size cars. Racing bodies claimed the engine was simply too fast, while Chevrolet faced intense corporate pressure to comply with new industry standards. The truth lies somewhere between fear, politics, and raw horsepower. The 409W wasn't just fast, it was unstoppable, and that's exactly why so many people worked overtime to stop it.
One of the cars that cemented the Chevrolet 409's place in automotive history was the 1961 Impala SS. With its high-output 409 under the hood, the Impala became a cultural icon, instantly embraced by racers and street legends who wanted a machine that combined raw muscle with a sleek personality. Even the more humble Chevrolet Biscayne transformed into a street menace when equipped with the same engine. Although the Biscayne was originally aimed at families, the 409 changed its image completely. But fame came with a price. The 409 was powerful, sometimes too powerful. Its massive torque made it notoriously difficult to handle, especially for inexperienced drivers. In 1962, a street race in Los Angeles ended in tragedy when a 409-powered Biscayne flipped at around 110 miles per hour, killing two teenagers. Newspapers labeled the engine the WidowMaker, and lawsuits soon hit Chevrolet dealerships. Another dark moment arrived in 1964 when amateur racer Jim Clark lost control of his 409-powered Impala during a qualifying run and crashed into spectators, fueling public pressure to restrict the engine. By 1964, the 409 was still in production but nearing its end. The famous 425 horsepower version was discontinued late that year, signaling a shift in Chevrolet's priorities. When 1965 arrived, only the 340 and 400 horsepower versions remained, and even these disappeared midway through the year as the all-new 396 big block stepped into the spotlight. The arrival of the 396 marked the beginning of the 409's decline. During its 5-year production run, Chevrolet built just over 15,000 units. Roughly 9,000 made their way into factory cars, while about 6,000 were sold as crate engines, allowing hot rodders across America to drop a 409 into their personal projects, keeping its legend alive far beyond the factory's shutdown. But the 409's downfall wasn't only due to mechanical evolution. A corporate decision in 1963 accelerated its demise. General Motors issued a company-wide ban on factory-backed racing, publicly claiming it was for safety reasons, especially after the Corvair's controversial accidents. Privately, executives admitted they feared antitrust lawsuits from Ford and Chrysler. This ban left well-known teams stranded without official support. Chevrolet dealerships stopped supplying high-performance parts, forcing racers to scavenge junkyards and rely on used components to keep their cars live. Still, the 409 found an unexpected second life in Canada. Canadian Pontiac models, built on Chevrolet frameworks, offered buyers the chance to order the engine in stylish local variants, like the Strato Chief, Laurentine, Perezzini, and Grand Perezzini. These cars had their own identity, but under the hood, they carried pure American muscle. When the U.S. racing ban tightened, enthusiasts desperately began smuggling Canadian 409-equipped Pontiacs across the border. U.S. Customs seized more than 20 such cars in 1965 alone, and several people were fined or jailed for trafficking performance vehicles, an unusual civil war considering both divisions were owned by General Motors. On the track, the 409 was a monster. Even in stock form, 1962 cars could run quarter-mile times in the low 14-second range, and some drivers managed high 13s with minimal modifications, sticky tires, freer-flowing headers, and proper tuning. As racers learned the engine's temperament, performance exploded. Don, the Snake Nicholson, shocked the racing world by winning the 1962 Winter Nationals in Pomona with a 13.7-second pass, embarrassing Ford's 406 in the process. Hayden Proffitt went ever further, setting a 12.90-second run in 1963 with a lightweight Z11-powered Impala, making it the first factory stock car to break into the 12s. His success forced NHRA to reclassify the Z11, effectively eliminating it from amateur competition. Other legends followed: Dave Strickler, Grumpy Jenkins, Dick Harrell, and the underdog Thompson Chevrolet team, each adding new chapters to the 409 mythology. But beneath its glory, the engine had real flaws. The W Series block design restricted airflow, causing chronic overheating and blown head gaskets. Dual quad carb setups, especially the 425 horsepower version, were powerful but temperamental. Mechanics joke that tuning it was like making a deal with the devil: perfect on one day, unpredictable the next. Even with its flaws, Chevrolet continued refining the engine, offering several versions in 1963 and 1964, with power outputs ranging from 340 to 425 horsepower. Yet it all came to an end in 1965, as the more advanced 396 replaced the aging design. Chevrolet also produced an ultra-rare variant known as the Z11, essentially a 427 cubic inch evolution of the 409 with a longer stroke and an enormous 13.5:1 compression ratio. Built specifically for racing, only a handful of 1963 full-size Chevrolets ever received this beast from the factory. Rumor has it that when GM abruptly canceled the program, dealers were instructed to destroy unsold units. Some enthusiasts claim that a few cars were literally buried in a landfill in Flint, Michigan, sparking decades of conspiracy theories. Even after its retirement, gearheads continued hunting for rebuildable 409 blocks. Although rare and expensive, the engine shared enough internal parts with other Chevrolet V8s to make restoration possible. Modern aftermarket companies now offer lightweight aluminum heads, upgraded water pumps, intake manifolds, and even stroker kits capable of pushing displacement well past the original limits. The 409 that once roared down drag strips now lives on in custom builds, restored classics, and nostalgic hot rods. Ultimately, the engine's downfall came from a mix of politics, engineering limitations, and shifting automotive priorities. The 409's unusual cylinder head design restricted airflow compared to the newer big block engines. Chrysler's Hemi laughed at high RPM endurance, and by 1965, the cleaner-burning, more efficient 396 made the 409 feel outdated. Rising emissions rules and soaring insurance premiums for high-powered cars added even more pressure. As the clean air era began, the 409's brutal fuel consumption made it a target, accelerating its disappearance from showrooms. Yet despite all the controversy, crashes, bans, and betrayals, the 409 remains one of Chevrolet's most iconic engines. Its legacy was shaped not just by the factory, but by the daring racers who squeezed every ounce of performance out of it. From drag strip victories to street racing folklore, from rock and roll songs to underground border smuggling, the 409 became more than an engine. It became a symbol of rebellion. Even today, builders revive them with modern parts, creating stroker monsters and high-performance rebuilds that keep the legend alive. Only about 15,000 were ever built, making the 409 rare, valuable, and unforgettable. And although it was replaced by more modern power plants, its roar still echoes in muscle car history.